So I don't know if you guys have heard about this company, but IQIYI. I know that that's a mouthful. Their ticker symbol is IQ, so I'm just going to be saying IQ for the rest of the video. But IQ is this company that used to be a part of Baidu. You've probably heard of Baidu, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But Baidu is a Chinese company, and they're sort of known as like the Google of China. They're pretty massive company. And IQ is actually compared to Netflix oftentimes. And so they're kind of considered the Netflix of China. And what's interesting is that back in March, they actually went public and they IPO'd for $18 a share. Now, currently IQ is trading at around $30 per share, which represents a very nice gain from that $18 IPO. And there has been some volatility in between, but still, it still represents a very nice gain there. Now, one of the things that I actually find the most interesting about IQ is that they recently reported earnings. And so they reported Q2 earnings very recently, and they had year-over-year subscriber growth of 75%. If you look at Netflix, I know what you're already thinking, don't compare it to Netflix because Netflix is this giant, massive company, but, a lot of analysts are comparing them and a lot of investors compare them, so I'm going to do it too. But Netflix, they reported Q2 earnings, and they had year-over-year subscriber growth of only 42%. So 42% Netflix, 75% IQ, that's a pretty big deal. The thing to consider, though, is that obviously Netflix is this massive company, so maybe subscriber growth is going to slow down at some point. But you also have to keep in mind, Netflix is a global company. IQ is really just operating mostly in China. So anyway, we're going to look at all of that. But the thing is that I've never really actually paid a lot of attention to IQ. But man, the more that I research them, the more that I find myself being very interested in them. So I think we should take a deeper look at IQ stock. So let's go ahead and do that right now. What's up, everybody? My name is Ale. Welcome to my world of finance. Don't forget to leave a comment down below for IQ stock. Let me know if you're bullish, bearish, or neutral. I'll tally up the results and I'll have that for you guys in a future video for Ale's World Consensus. Some of you haven't been voting, by the way, and I'm watching you guys, so start voting, damn it. All right, now something that I should probably mention before we get started is that IQ is not currently profitable. So that probably just cleared out the room of any value investors right there. The thing is that they are considered a growth stock, and so what we really care about is revenue and subscriber counts and subscriber growth. But when looking at revenue has been increasing by pretty large amounts, but net income has actually been going down for the past 3 years, and their balance sheet is nothing to brag about either. They've basically been burning through their cash every single year and adding to their debt, so that's not going too well either. But again, like I mentioned, what we really care about with this growth stock is their revenue and their subscriber count. Having a name like the Netflix of China, that's what we're really worried about. We're worried about, can they continue to grow their revenue, and can they keep adding those subscribers to their platform? So let's talk about that. All right, now starting with the former, when looking at revenue for IQ, they were not able to meet analyst expectations. So analyst estimates for revenue were at 6.26 billion yuan. By the way, yuan is the Chinese currency. And instead, they reported 6.17 billion yuan, so they did not meet analyst estimates. But even though they fell short of those estimates, it still represented a roughly 50% increase year over year. When looking at Q2 2018, Q2 2017, year over year, 50% increase, which I think is definitely very impressive. And even though they didn't meet those revenue estimates or EPS estimates, and I mentioned that net income continues to be something that they struggle with, subscriber growth is really where they're seeing a lot of success. And so I mentioned that they increased 75% year over year when looking at subscriber growth, and that added up to a total currently for them. They have 66.2 million paid subscribers. That's pretty high. We'll take a look at Netflix numbers in a second and we'll compare, but that's pretty high. And what's even more impressive is if you look at their Q1, they had a year-over-year growth of 71%. So Q1, 71% growth. Q2, 75% growth. I mean, this is a company that's climbing pretty quickly. All right, now I mentioned that we would compare to Netflix, right? So Netflix was founded over 20 years ago. IQ was founded around 8 years ago, so that's a pretty big difference. Although Netflix didn't really start streaming online content until about 10 years ago, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, currently, Netflix is available in almost 200 countries worldwide. That's a pretty big deal. But I think IQ is mostly in the Chinese market. I haven't heard of IQ being available anywhere else. I'm sure it is available in other places, but they have so much Chinese content on there that I think it only really relates to China, to the Chinese market. And there's also user content as well. That's another small difference that people often talk about when comparing IQ to Netflix. IQ does have a lot of very similar content to Netflix and big productions and things like that, but they also have smaller user-generated content as well. Now, despite Netflix being available in so many other countries, they only have a subscriber count of around 130 million. And I say only, like, as if that's like a really small number. That's definitely a huge number, but it's just when considering the fact that Netflix is available in almost 200 different countries, you know, and IQ has around 66 million subscribers. It's about half of what Netflix has, and IQ is really just in China. But obviously, China is a huge country with a huge population. But anyway, something to keep in mind. Now, IQ has around 67 million paid subscribers, roughly, give or take a few. And the interesting thing about them, though, is that they actually have a free version of their platform that is supported by ads. So it's supported by ad revenue. And so on the free version of their platform, when bringing in those users as well, their user count adds up to over 400 million people. That is insane. That's a pretty big deal. That's a lot of people. And I think something that we should mention with that is that their ad-supported free version of their platform is a huge asset, because if you think about it, it draws in so many people that aren't paying for a service, but that free version has limited content. They don't get access to all the content that IQ has. So if you want access to everything, you have to convert yourself from the free version to the paid version, right? You have to upgrade. So that gives IQ a pool of, you know, like I said, you know, it brings it up to 400 million people, a pool of hundreds of millions of people that they can essentially try to convert to their paid service. So that's, you know, that could potentially be a huge asset to them. And all the meanwhile, that free version is still bringing in revenue, because it's still bringing in ad revenue, because they're showing ads on the free version as well. All right, now there are definitely some cons that I think we should look at. One of them being that the average paid Chinese subscriber is not technically worth as much as the average paid subscriber for Netflix. And I know that sounds horrible. It sounds like I'm saying something racist, but the reason I say that is because for Netflix, the bottom tier for Netflix's plan is $7.99. And that's if you don't want HD content. If you want HD content, you got to step up to $10.99. And who doesn't want HD content? We live in 2018, right? So the way I see it, basically the bottom price is around $11. But for these Chinese streaming platforms, on average, they only charge their users around $3. Okay, so $11 compared to $3, that's a big difference when talking about revenue, right? So Netflix may have a lot more paid subscribers than than IQ, and maybe not even that much more, right? Just kind of double the amount, but the average price is so much higher that it brings in so much more revenue for Netflix as opposed to IQ. All right, now another major concern that I would have for IQ is, will China ever let Netflix, or maybe even in the future Disney, enter the Chinese market? Okay, now because the thing is here that if Netflix or Disney is ever able to enter the Chinese market, then you're talking about some massive companies, some massive competition for IQ, on top of which IQ already has to deal with Tencent and other Chinese streaming platforms and companies as well. So that's a major concern. Now, from what I remember, I believe that if you are a streaming platform and company and you want to bring your content over to the Chinese market, you have to produce less than 30% international content. In other words, I think the majority of your content has to be like Chinese based, or maybe by Chinese companies, or something like that. There's a lot of censorship and a lot of like restrictions. And so what Netflix has done is that Netflix has actually partnered with IQ to bring their content over to the IQ platform. They kind of partnered with Baidu, and then Baidu is obviously in connections with like IQ. So that's just kind of, it's all connected. So that's another really good thing about IQ as well, is that they have Baidu kind of backing them up all the time. But anyway, Netflix kind of partnered with IQ, and so they bring their content over through IQ. And so when you really think about it, that con could technically become a pro. If China never loosens these restrictions and it doesn't let Netflix and Disney enter the market, then they have to get in somehow. So they will have to partner with companies like IQ, or obviously Tencent or other Chinese streaming platforms, but they have to partner with them. In fact, Netflix has partnered with IQ in the past to bring their content over. I think they're still partnering with them, actually. And so if China never loosens those restrictions, Netflix has no choice but to partner with them. So that could actually be a major benefit to companies like IQ. And on top of that, another thing that I like about IQ is that they are entering the gaming market. And I shouldn't really say entering the gaming market because they have done stuff with gaming in the past, but they just recently acquired an entire gaming company, so they're taking it very seriously. Of course, Tencent would probably overshadow them. You know, they own a lot of Fortnite, and they own like some other really massive games as well. So, you know, but Tencent is this massive company. But IQ, I recently heard from someone that IQ is trying to not consider themselves the Netflix of China, but they want to be known as the Disney of China. And I think that's a stretch. I don't think IQ is going to be the Disney of China. But hey, you know, even though Tencent is dominating a lot of these different markets in China, I think that there's room for IQ. And the fact that IQ is backed by such a massive company like Baidu, I think that bodes very well for IQ. All right, now let's move on to my conclusion. And the last thing that I want to leave you guys with is, you know, I mentioned that you have to leave a comment down below. Let me know if you're bullish, bearish, or neutral on IQ stock. Me personally, I am bullish on IQ stock, but I am not buying IQ stock. I'm not buying IQ stock. And the reason why, there's really a couple reasons. One is that this is an international company. It's a foreign company, a Chinese company that I don't know a whole lot about. And not that I have a problem with international companies, but sometimes they can be a little difficult to understand, to fully understand, and to read all their financials and really understand how the company is doing. Sometimes you want certain financial metrics and things like that, and sometimes it's not available. Anyway, it can be a little bit of a headache sometimes. But the other issue, I think is the bigger issue, is that I don't use their product. And a lot of times I've told you guys that I don't like to invest in stocks, especially long term, if I don't understand the product. I shouldn't say especially long term, especially any term, short or long term. But if I don't use their product, then I don't like to buy their stock. Sometimes I break that rule. I have broken that rule, and I may break that rule actually with IQ, because I am very bullish on IQ, and from everything that I've seen, I really like them. But I'd have to do more research, and I'd have to really understand their product. And this is, you know, a Chinese related product that I don't really fully understand. I tried going on their website and I couldn't understand anything on it. So for those reasons, it's a little difficult for me to jump into IQ stock. But you know what? I'll tell you what, guys, I'll make you a deal. If I buy IQ stock, I'll make an updated video. All right. So you can reward my honesty and my transparency by subscribing and hitting the like button. How does that sound? Is that a deal? All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure that you leave a comment down below. Make sure you let me know how you feel about this stock, and hit the like button, subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.